welcome to Monday. It's good to have you here. I did not expect that things would get spicy again in the Diddy trial, and things didn't get spicy. They got saucy and dirty and downright pornographic. I know you think it's been pornographic till now, and I did too. But today, 12 people who up until now had normal lives, you know, they did their thing. They were, you know, hairdressers and mechanics and, I don't know, account executives or whatever. They were forced to watch porn. I kid you not, they had to put earphones on and watch the video for minute upon minute upon minute, way longer than anybody should have to. And I have a first-hand account for you tonight of what their faces were like. The men's faces and the women's on the jury. And let me tell you, they weren't the same. I think you could probably guess who had more of a shock and awe on the panel. But let me tell you something. This was really important because the governments are winding up. They're winding up the case. And man, did they hit hard with a couple of witnesses today. I'm going to tell you all about it. I'm also going to tell you about the receipts. The receipts that they brought. My God, hold it. Just hold it. Also, in the Karen Reid trial, I didn't know if we'd get a verdict today. I thought maybe. Look, it was a pretty explosive closing argument that was made. And I thought maybe we'd get a verdict. But if we didn't, it would be a quiet, boring day. And it wasn't quiet. It was not quiet at all. There was screaming. There was yelling. There was like a fight, but not among the jurors. It was outside, like 1,000 people outside. And some of them didn't get along. And one of the guys who didn't get along with another guy is on tonight. He goes by Turtle Boy online. But a lot of people have followed his coverage since day one, and he was involved in an altercation, and he's going to tell me about that, why there was an altercation, and also the prediction for tomorrow. Hint, verdict. Which verdict? That's coming up in a moment. And then a 10-year-old boy in California is dead tonight from fentanyl, but it is not what you think. This kid had no idea about fentanyl. This was no fault of his own. But there is someone who's been arrested, someone who was in the house with him making his dinner. And that woman is charged with his death, but not his murder. So the question is why? If this little boy died because allegedly the woman who was helping to look after him that night was in possession of fentanyl that somehow got into this boy, why isn't she charged with murder? Because his mom wants to know, and she's live with me tonight. All of that is coming your way in just a moment, but let me start here. It is a cardinal rule of Hollywood and Broadway and podcasts and novels and after-dinner speeches. You want to hold your audience. You follow the dry but necessary stuff with the moment they've all been waiting for, or several moments they've all been waiting for. And that is what happened today in the Diddy trial, week 6 of testimony. It actually started off a bit of a snore. I was losing consciousness for a bit. It was spreadsheets and flight logs and text chains and bank statements and hotel receipts and I need a snack. And then the airfare receipts. And my yawning snapped shut. Airfare receipts. Okay, now you got me, because sex trafficking kind of sometimes, you know, requires some travel over state lines. That list turned out to be a virtual paper trail of freak-offs. Freak-offs that had been going on between Diddy and his ex-girlfriends for years. And all completely necessary for the government to make its case for racketeering and sex trafficking, maybe while not being exactly gripping, being totally important and critical, and oh my God factor. It did not help that the special agent on the stand didn't even use the term freak-off. She instead called those orgies meetings. Yeah, meetings, government lawyers, eh? But then, boom. Prosecution hit play. They hit play. For the first time in this trial, that poor jury, or maybe they liked it, I don't know, that jury saw actual freak-off videos. I know what you're thinking, and yes, they had already seen some photos, like screenshots of the dirty videos. They had already heard some audio of the freak-offs, but today, each and every juror got a set of headphones, and they were forced to watch 3 clips that rolled on the monitors in front of them. Monitors, by the way, that were not visible to the gallery, not visible to the people who didn't need to see what was going on those videos. Because some people are calling those sexual assaults in this case, right? And you can't just open sexual assaults up to the public. One clip was from October 14th, 2012. The night prosecutors say Sean Combs arranged a freak-off in New York with his girlfriend at the time, Cassie Ventura, and a sex worker known as the Punisher, real named Sheree Hayes. Both names came up before in this trial, and Hayes was a guest on this very show.
It always started the same, some sort of a scenario where we would be across from each other on couches that were covered with sheets. It always had to start with a baby oil, with me rubbing it on myself, her doing the same, escalating to us rubbing each other, and then escalating into small sex acts, leading into actual penetration. It's very methodical and pretty much the same.
The feds played two other freak-off clips, both from 2014, and while some on the jury were stone-faced, others were definitely not stone-faced, and I'm going to have a lot more on that with some real specific details from somebody who was there and watching that panel of jurors, literally watching super dirty porn. Another memorable name resurfaced in court today as well, that of Diddy's former longtime right-hand woman, Christina Coram. Look at your monitor. Right beside me there, in between Diddy and me. This is the court photo of Christina Coram. And why is it a photo and not a person? Good question. I don't know. I fully expected the government was going to call Christina Coram the chief of staff for Diddy. I fully expected she was going to walk in and maybe get immunity, because dang, if you believe what the government is saying, she is in trouble. But she was not called. So watch this space to see if she's charged. I don't know. But she was at Diddy's side throughout his relationships with both Cassie and the other accuser known only by the name Jane. Today, jurors saw Christina Coram's text messages and heard the audio messages both to and from and among other members of Diddy's alleged enterprise. And in the process, guess what? Yes, we learned another term for Diddy's sex parties. Many on the staff called them king nights. We heard them as freak-offs, hotel nights. Now, king nights, as in a night for Diddy the King to have wild sex with a few of his so-called guests. Yes, I said a few, not just one, not just two, multiple guests. But some of the text messages indicated that things went off the rails and may have become violent. There was an exchange from 2017 that begins with a text from Cassie to Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Coram. And Cassie writes, WTF? Coram responds back by asking if she's okay, and Cassie texts, no, but you should talk to him, meaning presumably Diddy. I'm sure you don't want to get involved, Cassie says, but no one deserves being dragged by their hair, end quote. Christina Coram responds, I will try to talk with him when he's up. I could go on, and I'm actually going to go on. But first, a quick word about Diddy's jury, because the judge told us on Friday that he was strongly inclined to give juror number 6 the boot. And this morning, he gave juror number 6 the boot. He said that he believed that number 6 lied about where he really lived on a regular basis, just so that he could for sure get picked to be on this jury. The defense was not happy about this. They complained that losing a black man would make that jury panel less diverse. But the judge said there's still plenty of diversity on that panel, even with the addition of the alternate, who's a white guy. As it stands now, there are 8 men and 4 women, and at least 5 people are of color. And as if that wasn't enough juror drama, a second juror was then held after court for questioning today. All I can tell you is what TMZ is reporting about this one, because the judge wouldn't tell us. TMZ says that this juror received a strange text message from an unknown number asking if he was juror number 6, the juror 6 who got bounced. The man reported the contact, as he's supposed to the judge, and it is not clear tonight, at least it's not clear to me, whether any legal harm has been done by this or any action needs to be taken, but everything's going on as planned. I'm joined now by Lauren Conlon, host of the popular true crime podcast, The Outlier, and Pop Crime TV on YouTube. She was in the courtroom for all of this today, the drama and everything. I have to ask you first and foremost about the reaction to the jury panel, Lauren, when they were basically forced to watch pornography for many minutes upon minutes, right? And I kept wondering, the women versus the men, how did they react? So just take me there and tell me what you saw.
Yes, Ashley, this one female juror who is pretty known to show reactions in the courtroom, she was horrified. She was looking away. I think she was kind of covering her eyes. It was very clear she was not enjoying what she was watching. Now, on the other hand, the men, I gotta say, they did not move, Ashley. Their eyes were locked on the screen, and they were pretty much like, so yeah, there was quite a difference. And I'll also tell you that in the gallery, it was during video 2, we could hear moaning. We weren't quite sure. And then all of a sudden, the reporter next to me, we're kind of elbowing each other. We're kind of all looking around, sharing glances, and we're like, yep, oh my goodness, that's moaning. And I noticed that some of the jurors kind of had their headsets on halfway on their ears, covering them. So maybe the sound was kind of escaping that way, but we definitely heard part of video number 2.
Ew. Well, okay. So, all right, that happened. Yeah. I kind of expected, Lauren, that was going to be the reaction, that the men would be like, yeah, well, so, okay, I've seen this kind of thing before maybe, but the women would be floored, that they were actually forced to do this as part of their public service. Talk to me about how things went after they've spent like 6 weeks now with juror number 6, and suddenly he's gone. Were they even told, where's the guy that we've been sitting with, and why is there a new guy? Like, what were the dynamics like when suddenly there's a new person on the panel this far into the case?
Well, it's really interesting because at the end of the day today, Alexandra Shapiro, Diddy's appellate lawyer, I believe, on the defense, she asked the judge, how were the other jurors told about juror 6 leaving, or what were they told? What went on behind closed doors? And the judge actually said, let me find out and I'll get back to you tomorrow. And look, Diddy's team was not happy about losing this juror. That is clear. Late Sunday night, June 15th, they submitted a motion saying if this juror is in fact dismissed, we will most likely move for a 3rd mistrial. And I saw Diddy's face as the jury was coming in this morning and juror number 6 was missing or dismissed, not there. He looked down and kind of just shook his head, very disappointed. And the new juror is a 57-year-old accountant, which, let's be honest, accountants are historically good for the prosecution.
Tell me about the boys. Every day in court, I've been sort of amazed and skeeved out by the fact that Diddy's sons are in court to hear all of this filthy testimony. I get it. You got to have your family to show support. But as a father, I would never want my children to hear this stuff. Yet they've been there every day, except for today. They weren't there. Do you have some insight?
Well, I noticed that early on, they did miss a couple days here and there, or they would show up for a half day. So I really didn't think much of it. His sons have been incredibly supportive. I mean, as you know, court can be very tedious, but they have shown up for their father. And we saw these social media posts that they put out on Father's Day, which were very loving. So I don't have any insight as to why they weren't there today, but I'm not looking too much into it.
What were the posts like? What did they say in their Father's Day posts?
Well, Christian Combs had this post of he and his dad, and he was very little. He was maybe 5 or 6 years old. And I actually thought, yep, there it is. I thought it was very heartfelt because he wrote something like, I love you and I miss you and I'll see you at home, or we're waiting for you at home. And I always think when you take ownership and say, I love you instead of love you, it really indicates that you mean it. And then I believe it was Justin Combs. He put a video up and his was a little more fun, a little more casual, but just really showing that they support their dad and they truly believe that he is coming home.
Wow. Well, I saw some of the comments and it was fascinating. You should go to the comments section, folks. It's entertainment in itself. Hey, Lauren Conlon, thank you so much. Come back again. That's just great insights. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ashley.
All right, I want to bring in Ashley Wilcott, Court TV anchor, former juvenile court judge in Georgia, and just a super smart person when it comes to everything in American jurisprudence. Okay, other Ashley, judge. I thought when we were getting into receipts and all the dry, boring stuff, I thought, oh, you know, they just got to get this stuff on the record. And then I started to see boxes being checked. And I'm not sure if I'm the only one. I felt like the government was winding up with a bang. Here are the receipts to sex trafficking. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, Ashley. I think that's exactly what they intended, because remember, they put this testimony out to really connect the dots between P. Diddy and his staff, chief of staff. Here you hear about all these things like the setup of the hotel rooms, coordinating travel for Jane and the escort, Paul, paying for the product, for the drugs that they were going to use, all of the specifics that go right hand in hand, quite frankly, with sex trafficking and engaging in a criminal enterprise.
So what about Christina Coram? I thought for sure the feds were going to pressure her and say, either you turn and you testify for us or you're going to go away like Ghislaine Maxwell. That's sort of how I had it in my head. But she's not being called. What are your thoughts?
I don't think you're wrong, Ashley. I think the reality is this. Typically, when we see a witness like that, they're calling her a co-conspirator. And typically, the feds aren't going to refer to her as a co-conspirator unless they're planning to charge or they're continuing to investigate to determine if they should charge her. And I think the reality is this. You know it as well as I do because you're smart, Ashley. If, in fact, they had offered her a deal that she felt like was a good enough deal, I think she would have taken it. So the fact she's not testifying, I think we may see charges against her in the future.
That's what I thought. But I needed to check with someone way better at this than I am, because I just thought it doesn't make any sense. The jury's been hearing about this chief of staff nonstop, the linchpin between all these text messages. Okay, real quickly, the freak-off videos, these poor jurors, I mean, I guess, had to watch porn today. And I wondered why the government waited till the end instead of starting off that way so that they had that frame of reference every time they heard these women talking about how awful it was.
It's strategic, and I can promise you that they wanted to hit with the biggest impact. And what's the biggest impact? That video of all the testimony, having to watch the freak-offs is going to be the biggest piece of evidence. It's at the end on purpose because all it does is confirm everything they've heard from the witnesses so that the jurors can say, aha, not only do we see it, but everything these witnesses told us is true, they're credible.
You know, Court TV is lucky to have you, Judge Ashley. Thank you so much for being on. Come back again.
Thank you.
Judge Ashley Wilcott, check her out on Court TV. Again, former juvenile court judge, and like I said, smart cookie. Still to come, 2 days of deliberations in Karen Read's murder trial devolved into a shouting match today. But it wasn't the jurors. It was the circus outside. Coming up next, a recap of tensions that boiled over on the steps of the courthouse from an online journalist who goes by the handle Turtle Boy. And he should know. He's been on this story since day one, and he was right in the middle of the melee today. He's next. During most trials, jury deliberations are pretty quiet. They are a quiet affair, generally. But the Karen Read trial is not most trials. Day 2 was full of intrigue and emotion and even shouting. But the shouting wasn't in the jury room. At least we don't know that it was in the jury room. things seemed quiet on that front. The shouting was out on the front steps of the courthouse. Two online journalists went at it, a Reed supporter and a Reed detractor. The supporter has become pretty famous in this trial. His name is Aidan Kearney. He goes by Turtle Boy online. He's going to be the one holding the phone in the video that you're about to see. And then the detractor is not so famous, but I don't know. After this, he may end up a little famous. Take a look.
I got into the courtroom.
Your billboard T-shirt is false.
He's interrupting my broadcast.
Albert is going to sue you for everything you have.
I don't know. That seems unlikely.
All your money.
That seems unlikely. I thought
Ryan
it was
Albert. Where was Proctor?
Sir, I'm in the middle of the broadcast. Sir, thank you. So anyway, yeah, we're out here. I'm going to be going into the court soon.
She was drunk.
Wow.
Oof. For his part, Turtle Boy in the yellow has been covering this case from day one on his YouTube channel, Turtle Boy Live. And here's what he shot today outside of the courthouse.
This is the crowd out here today. How's everybody feeling? Good? Yeah. 2 more hours. We can get a verdict today. We need a verdict today. How's everybody doing? Good. Awesome. Man, look at this crowd, man. Look at this crowd, dude. Hello. What's going on, everybody? Not guilty, right? Yes.
We're going to have to wait to find out if it's not guilty. We're going to have to wait a little longer to find out if it's actually not guilty, because despite deliberating all day today, no verdict announced. And so the jury's going to have to just pick up and continue where they left off today. That will happen tomorrow. But I had the chance to speak with Aidan Turtle Boy Kearney about the trial, about the circus, and about a likely verdict this time around. Here's our conversation. So Aidan, no verdict today. Is this a surprise?
I went into the day thinking it was like 50-50 that we might get a verdict. So no, it's not surprising with a murder case like this that took 31 days, death of a Boston police officer. It's not really surprising that they'd take their time. I don't think anyone's shocked by it. Disappointed, certainly. We waited out there all day. There was a couple thousand people out there all day just waiting for that verdict that never came. So it was a little anticlimactic, but I think tomorrow is going to be the day.
And I guess the natural question would be, you said it, couple thousand people waiting. What is it that has people putting their lives aside and gathering at the courthouse and waiting for that verdict?
Well, Karen Reed could be any one of us. That's why. I mean, it's just so transparently outrageous. Like, if you watch the trial, I mean, how many doctors do you need to testify that John O'Keefe wasn't hit by a car before you realize that John O'Keefe wasn't hit by a car? And if John O'Keefe wasn't hit by a car, that means someone inside Brian Albert's house killed him, and they know that, and they're intentionally covering this up. I mean, if that doesn't get you to come out and protest, if that's not enough to get you off the couch and get you down to Dedham to stand outside the courthouse and make your voices heard, then what will?
So things got testy today, right? Like, you got into it with another guy. Can you tell me what happened and how it resolved?
So that's John DePietro. He's a disgraced radio host from Rhode Island. He was fired for being involved in a rating scandal a few years ago from his job on the radio. He was having his wife apparently tuned into the radio from multiple devices all over the place. Anyway, he latched onto this case after I started getting involved and kind of took the opposite point, the Commonwealth point. And he's just kind of like a cartoon character. We call him Baghdad Bob. He basically does propaganda work for the government, and he sets up shop like right in the middle of where everyone is. And, I do a live stream in the morning too. And my live stream was apparently getting too close to his, and he didn't like that very much. So he kind of lashed out at me, and it made the New York Post.
So is that indicative of the schism between the people who are out there? Like, what's the percentage of those who back Karen Reed? What's the percentage of those who want to see Karen Reed be found guilty?
Well, on the internet, that's one thing, but in real world where you are today, there is not one, I repeat, Not one single person out there supporting the Commonwealth today. Not one. There are thousands supporting Karen Reed. What you're seeing, you know, one of the greatest lies told about this whole thing is that Canton and Norfolk County are evenly divided on this topic. They're not. They are not. It is a very, very distinct minority that almost exclusively exists on the internet. They do not exist in real life. They do not show up anywhere because the cause that they're advocating for is so ridiculous and so nonsensical that they're afraid to show their face and advocate for it publicly.
So you and I having this discussion, it's all academic, right? It really just matters what the jury feels at this point. This all comes down to those 12 people who had to sit through weeks upon weeks of competing testimony. And I know that you've, got a sense of them. What is the prevailing wisdom on how they reacted, where they were bored, where they were intrigued, when they took notes, and where they might be leaning? And I know it's a parlor game, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Well, it's funny because there was a media randomizer this time around because so many media entities wanted to get into the courtroom. So they would do a randomizer every week to see who would get in. And I lost the randomizer. It didn't seem very random at all. I think 6 weeks in a row. John DePietro actually won 4 or 5 weeks in a row. So I saw the jury about half the trial towards the end, but I did see them during the ARCA witnesses and during Dr. LaPosada's testimony, and they seemed like much more kind of glued to and interested in the things that Alan Jackson and the defense were saying, as opposed to Hank Brennan, who, it was an alert jury. They took notes throughout the entire process. I'll give them that. 18 people, not one of them dropped, which is pretty impressive in and of itself. I mean, that's why they have alternates in case people drop. Not one of them dropped. Nobody fell asleep. Last trial, a couple people fell asleep a couple times because some of this testimony is a little bit boring, especially like when it comes to like putting pieces of taillight together and glass on the bottom. It's just a lot of it gets redundant. But this jury was really alert, but they did seem more kind of drawn to the defense's case, not quite as much as last time. They weren't as visible. Like last time, there was a couple women who were making faces of horror last time. What Micah Proctor read his text messages out loud, and some of the things that Brian Albert said and Jennifer McCabe said, they just kind of rolled their eyes and they laughed. Several laughed at Trooper Paul. We didn't have any of those people this time around, except for Jennifer McCabe. So there wasn't as funny. This trial wasn't as funny. Like last trial was kind of funny. Some of the things that were said, it was just so ridiculous. When Trooper Paul said that he did a pirouette in midair and the cell phone got underneath him because, quote, it did. We didn't have any moments like that. They had actual doctors this time around. Judson Welcher, who was equally as ridiculous, but he has an actual PhD. So this was a little bit more serious of a trial. It was more focused on the science and the physics and less focused on the conspiracy angle.
I got 5 seconds left, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you on the over-under. Are we going to get a verdict? And if you think it might be a guilty and not guilty or no verdict at all?
I don't think there's any chance in hell you're going to have a guilty verdict. I think that at this point, I think you're going to have a 75% chance tomorrow of an acquittal. I think it could go another day after that. I think we're at a 10% hung jury now. That's what I would put it at, 10%.
Okay, you have to come back. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
I'd be happy to. Thanks for having me, Ashley.
Cheers. And still to come, here's something that you rarely hear. A 10-year-old Little League pitcher dead from an overdose of fentanyl. Nathaniel was from Southern California, and somehow just before Christmas last year, he ingested a fatal dose. But police now think they know how it happened and who's responsible. And tonight, that person is in jail. But the word murder is nowhere to be found in the charging papers. Nathaniel's heart-sick mother can't believe it, and she joins me live right here next. It is 50 times stronger than heroin. And in the wrong hands, fentanyl kills without mercy, and it devastates families. Case in point, the family of Nathaniel Castro Mendoza, a 10-year-old California boy who loved baseball, pro wrestling, and Captain America. Back in December, Nathaniel stopped breathing for no apparent reason. And not long after dinner at his home outside Los Angeles, everything went sideways. Despite every single effort by paramedics to save him, 10-year-old Nathaniel died. An autopsy found fentanyl and another drug were in his system. And in March, a woman who lived in that same house was arrested. Police say she, quote, possessed and stored fentanyl in a manner that led to the victim's death, end quote. Her name is Christina Alvarez, and she is or was the girlfriend of Nathaniel's uncle. Tonight, she's charged with felony child endangerment with an enhancement of willful harm resulting in death. And as bad as that sounds, Nathaniel's family says it is not nearly bad enough. I'm joined now by Nathaniel's mother, Marcy Castro. And in a last-minute edition, Nathaniel's father, Miguel Mendoza, is also with us. Thank you to both of you, and I appreciate you being on, and I am so sorry that we're meeting under these circumstances. Can you take me back? And Marcy, I'll begin with you. Can you take me back to December when this happened and lay out what exactly happened that night?
That night, Nathaniel went to bed. Before that, he just came home like a normal day. Came home from school, played outside, rode a scooter, ate dinner, had shrimp that my brother's girlfriend brought home. He went to bed, woke up another time, one more time, around 11. My husband saw him. Nothing seemed unusual because Nathaniel was, you know, normally a hot little boy, was sleepy, drowsy. That didn't raise any flags just because that, you know, he had just woke up to use the bathroom. After that, Nathaniel went to bed, and unfortunately, that was the last time Nathaniel was alive.
Miguel, the charges for Christina Alvarez don't include murder, and you and your family feel that this is inappropriate. Have the prosecutors spoken with you about this or explained why there's no murder charge here?
Yes, they did speak with us about it. They explained that they weren't able to prove certain things as far as the murder goes, as far as the murder charge. So unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to charge her with that. The best they can do here in California is the child abuse with the enhancement.
Marcy, how do you think this happened? Like, do either of you, does anyone in the family feel that this was intentional? Do you think it was an accident? How do you think your boy was poisoned with fentanyl?
We have so much running through our heads right now of how it could have happened. In my heart, I feel like maybe it was done purposely, but obviously we can't prove that.
And the only reason we feel that way is there was many
Why
other
do you
people
feel
in the
that way?
household. There was many other people in the household, and for some reason, only our son was affected by it. So for that reason, you know, that's why we believe that.
And, you know, so many other people in the household. I was astounded to learn that Christina also had 2 children of her own in the household. Did they also eat the shrimp dinner that she had made for your son?
Just to correct it, she didn't make it. She brought it home from, I don't know where she brought it home. She was out that whole day. She came home with shrimp from a restaurant. She says she herself and her kids ate it also. But we have, you know, we can't really prove that. We don't know if it's true that they ate it or not, but how did it only affect Nathaniel?
At this point, I know you are pushing a movement, demand justice for Nathaniel. And the last I checked, I think there were 2,000 signatures. Tell me a little bit about that and what you're hoping to achieve with that movement. We
want to raise awareness. educate, advocate, protect, want to support families with similar tragedies, and fight for accountability.
Well, Marcy and Miguel, I said it at the top, I'll say it again. I'm sorry that we're meeting under these circumstances, and I do pray for your family that that you get the justice and any kind of closure that you can. Thank you for being on, and thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for letting us share Nathaniel's story.
Yes, and I should also tell our viewers that we did reach out to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office today to get an update on the charges against Cristina Alvarez, but we did not hear back from them at the time of the program. We will continue to follow the story, however. It has been one day since Father's Day and well over 2 weeks since an increasingly troubled and volatile Travis Decker picked up his 3 young daughters from their mom's house in Washington State and then vanished. Within days, the girls were found murdered, presumably by that father. And while the manhunt continues, we can now hear Travis Decker's voice, loud and clear, in a custody hearing from less than a year ago, where he pleads for more visitation with those 3 girls. You'll hear it too next. Whitney Decker's worst fears were realized 2 weeks ago today, because that's when the bodies of her 3 young daughters, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, were found in a Washington State campground. Each of them had been bound at the wrist with zip ties and suffocated with plastic bags over their heads. And the alleged killer? Their father, Travis Decker. Travis has not been seen since the day he picked up the girls for a court-approved visit, and that was just a few days before they were found dead. The manhunt is still in full force, but tonight, for the first time, we are hearing audio from the court hearing last September where this ex-Army Ranger, Travis Decker, lost permission to keep his daughters overnight. Their mom had complained that having no home of his own, he had forced the girls at least once to sleep at a local armory. But Decker insisted that he took them to paid campsites with other campers around, something that he'd done their whole lives. He swore he'd never do anything to put his daughters at risk. That was then. Have a listen.
Every time I've had the girls, we have been in campsites in national forests and paid campsites that have campers. We've never done anything that was unsafe or anything I wouldn't want to put myself in. I understand that my current position when I'm by myself isn't ideal, but my daughters aren't a part of that. I only get to see them over the weekends, and camping is something that the 4 of us have done since the 3 of them were in diapers. I've never done anything I feel like that puts them in any sort of a risk that most families in the state of Washington, every campsite we've been to in the last month have been almost completely booked out or sold out because everybody's out this time of year.
His argument failed, and his visits with the girls were restricted to every other weekend, but during the day only. And now we have another glimpse of Decker's apparent slow-motion breakdown from his older brother, who's a fellow soldier as well, Thomas Decker. Thomas tells the Daily Mail that in 2022, he found out that he was being transferred to a base near Travis's home in Wenatchee, Washington, and says he was thrilled. He also says Travis was thrilled too, but by the time the move actually happened, Big Brother Thomas said that Travis was distant and uninterested. Big Brother Thomas goes on to say that he soon learned about his brother's divorce and that Travis was starting to abandon his family. And even worse, he says Travis was showing signs of violence. Even when the family attempted an intervention to talk out his problems. Thomas says he eventually had to cut off all ties with his brother and hopes that his days on the run will end soon, as do all of us. After the break, an arrest and a conviction maybe nobody saw coming at least a decade ago. That was when we all thought that when somebody did this, it meant joy and fun, not prison. But now it means just that. The story behind the buzzkill for the whip and the nay-nay, next. You may have known him as Silento, a hip-hop star who back in 2015 hit it big with the single Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay. Yeah, it was everywhere. The dance moves and the video, that garnered, believe it or not, 2 billion, with a B, 2 billion views on YouTube, and that alone could have set him up for life. But then came 2021. Silento, whose real name is actually Ricky Lamar Hawk, turned down a very dark road. After weathering a couple of arrests for assault, Hawk was picked up for murder. The murder of his own cousin, Frederick Brooks III, who was found shot to death near Atlanta. Witness statements, doorbell cams, and GPS all pointed straight to Ricky Hawk, who ultimately ended up confessing. But the case had languished almost 4.5 years. And then just last week, Hawk pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, possessing a firearm while committing a crime, and concealing the death of another. The murder charge actually was dropped because Hawk agreed that he was, quote, guilty but mentally ill, end quote. Mr. Hawk was sentenced to 30 years in prison, so I think it's fair to say his nay-nay dancing days are over. Quick update for you. We're looking at the Karen Reid jury all day tomorrow. You heard Turtle Boy say 75% chance of a verdict. That's a guess at best, but wow, if it was true. We're going to watch and we're going to update. And then also, I've got that on my podcast, Drop Dead Serious. We do updates every day on Diddy, and we're going to follow Karen Reid as well. In the Diddy trial, tomorrow could be a humdinger as well, because the prosecutors are coming down with a bang. They're going to put a guy they allege is Diddy's drug mule on the stand. They say it is Brendan Paul. Whether they give him immunity, that's probably going to happen, because who wants to get on the stand if you're an alleged drug mule and spill your guts? So watch for that. Not only that, I have a daily update on Diddy every day. I go in big depth with Drop Dead Serious. So make sure you check out the podcast to get all the big details from today. It was kind of one of those ick days. And yeah, I go there. Thanks for watching tonight, everybody.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.